Wild Indian is a film that blew my mind and will definitely stay with you for a long time after you watch it. Hey, it's Kristen, and I am still so hyped after attending my first Sundance Film Festival. It was virtual this year. I was part of their press inclusion initiative, which was such a cool experience. It really just allows them to include more underrepresented critics of color in the space, and I just was so grateful for the opportunity. There were so many incredible stories being told. You can check out my interviews from the festival right here, but today I'm going to be sharing my top 10 favorite films from Sundance Film Festival. Consider subscribing if you like my videos, and drop down in the comments and let me know your thoughts. Have you checked out any of these films, or any of them ones that you are really anticipating and can't wait till they come out? Let me know. There are also two short films that I really love that I wanted to mention. BJ's Mobile Gift Shop, which is about a Korean-American hustler in Chicago making sales from his mobile gift shop, and Bambarak, which is about the bond of a young girl and her father while attempting to live and work in a new country and dealing with racism. Now let's get into my top 10 films. So first is Romeo and Juliet. This is a retelling of the classic Shakespeare story, but focused on Black and brown teens, told entirely through the lens of social media. It had such a talented and energized young cast with Cameron Angles, Francesca Noel, Diego Tinoco, and Sadiq Saunderson, who was such a standout as Mercutio. There's excellent music, it's got a great aesthetic. You know, I've never actually seen a project about social media that really felt like it embodied it so much as this one. It just felt so accurate and authentic to the times, and I think it'll be a really cool time capsule to look back at in the future, just to sort of see what it was like living in that Gen Z social media age. I will say though, at times the digital style can be a little bit overwhelming. There's so much time focused on like screens, TikTok, Instagram, that I don't think we get to necessarily spend enough time with the actors themselves, which can make it a little bit hard to connect with. Mayday delivers a complex look at feminism as we see young women engaging in a never-ending war against men. Our main character gets transported to this like alternate reality that really evokes these vibes of like Wizard of Oz and Peter Pan and the Lost Boys. There's some really strong performances, and wow, I mean, Mia Goth really stole the show here. Phenomenal. But I do wish that there was a little bit more development in the story, especially at the end. One for the Road is a compelling road trip drama that goes back and forth between New York and Thailand. It centers around these two estranged friends that reconnect when it turns out one of them has cancer. And it spins off into a story about love and regret, friendship, and forgiveness. It's set to a really memorable score, and I found myself really invested in the stories of our dual characters. I also love that the director, Baz Poonpriya, brought his real-life love of cocktails to the film. He actually owns a bar in Bangkok, and the stylized bartending shots were just so cinematic and incredible to watch. Next up is Together Together, a charming and heartwarming story about friendship, surrogacy, and platonic love. It was really refreshing to see Ed Helms in this role as a man who wants to move forward in life and become a father, even if that means he has to do it on his own. And I found it truly groundbreaking and impactful to see Patty Harrison, who's a transgender actress, leading this film. Rita Moreno, just a girl who decided to go for it, explores the life of the Latina legend and how she broke barriers in the industry and found her voice, especially dealing with such blatant racism and stereotyping. There was just such a powerful message in this film about how we as people of color are portrayed on screen in ways that sometimes give others permission to treat us in stereotypical ways, and in ways that also affect how we feel about ourselves. And that is why it's so important for us to be telling our own authentic stories. Mass caught my eye because I've been such a big fan of Frank Kranz since its Dollhouse days, and I've also seen a couple of his other projects at film festivals. Mass, though, marks his debut in directing and writing, and wow, he really delivered such a complex and emotional one-room drama. You're literally like a fly on the wall watching this conversation play out between these two families that have dealt with so much trauma and pain years after a tragic school shooting. There are really strong performances in this one, although I do have to say that because we're so focused on kind of being in the same room the entire time, there were some moments where I started feeling like things were a little bit wooden, and I do think the ending dragged a bit, but overall this is such a powerful, poignant, and timely story about guilt, grief, mental health, and parenting. Amy Tan Unintended Memoir is such a moving and honest documentary about the life of prolific writer Amy Tan. They dive into her family and how their inherited trauma really influenced her writing, the pressures of success, and her impact within Asian American representation. She's dealt with so many ups and downs in life, but still comes across as such such a cool and down-to-earth person. This definitely had to be my favorite Sundance documentary. Marvelous in the Black Hole is a beautiful story about unlikely friends, a teenage delinquent, and a magician who help each other deal with grief, anger, and family issues through the whimsical lens of stage magic. I found it particularly refreshing to see Mia Check leading this film and just sort of breaking down these stereotypes within the Asian American community. I also loved how much director Kate Tsang's own experiences really influenced this project and just how personal it was. I think that really came across in this creative and stylistic coming-of-age story. Brilliant, emotional, dark, brutal, Wild Indian is a film that blew my mind and will definitely stay with you for a long time after you watch it. Decades after covering up the murder of a classmate, two men have gone on to lead very different lives. The parallels between our two main characters are utterly haunting and fascinating to dive into, and I think Michael Grey Eyes and Chasky Spencer are incredible and so authentic in their roles. I found this one to be an underrated gem at Sundance, and I really hope more people check it out. And of course, CODA was the most buzzed about movie at Sundance. I mean, right away it got picked up by Apple, and everyone's been talking about it since then. So of course I had to check that one out, and it did not disappoint. It follows this universal story of family, dreams, and music, but through the lens of a hearing teenager from a deaf family. With authentic performances, a really solid script from top to bottom, and a respectful look into the deaf community, CODA just hits all the right notes. So these are some of my favorite films from Sundance Film Festival 2021. I ended up watching 21 features and a handful of short films at the festival, so if you want to know a little bit more, I actually made a Letterboxd account, which I will leave a link to, letterboxd.com/kmaldo, and there you can see some of the other films I saw and my thoughts on those. If you guys like this one, you can check out more of my Sundance coverage right over here, and I'll catch you in my next one. See ya!